Hi, today I'll be talking about the peer coaching cycle, focus on time management strategies with my colleague. Also discussing my shadowing days with my administrator, reflecting on the time management strategies that they used to effectively, do the tasks that they needed to complete for the day. First, starting off with the peer coaching cycle. My first steps, I realized I needed to go in and observe what was happening during her instructional time, what time management strategies that was already in place, what challenges that she was having, and also any current time management practices that was happening or delaying the instructional time and that was affecting the productivity of the student learning. With that, I observed that she did not use any time management strategies or any practices that would help her move the time. She would teach a lesson and she would just make sure that all the kids were working. First, they were engaged and they were working, but she would take time to fully explain every single problem. In particular, we're talking about a fourth grade math teacher. In this sense, I realized that there was a lot of instructional time being lost for kids to move and practice their skills independently and also assess their skills in the moment. With that being said, I realized that in the coming meetings, we talked about what skills can we use, what time management could we use to help move the lesson along. So we built the lesson start to finish using timers. So we decided that we were going to use set times in between each problem, also giving her a timer to help her determine how much time is going to be used for each problem to set the timer. And once the timer goes off, that means it's time to move on to the next part. So with that being said, for example, we identified, okay, well, this is the start of the lesson. This is the engagement. We're going to do 3 minutes for the engagement. You're going to set the timer. You're going to walk around. You're going to monitor. You're going to listen to students with their reasoning. And then once that timer goes off, as you're monitoring and listening, have one student in mind that you want to call on to help you answer the question, the engagement question, and then move on. Once that engagement piece was done, we moved on to the building the understanding part, which is one problem where it activates students' prior knowledge and it activates what do they currently know or what strategies do they want to use to solve the problem. With that build the understanding problem, we set 5 minutes because it takes time for the students to really engage into that piece, really activate their learning and really think through about what skills, what concepts or strategies they need to use to solve the problem. So once that 5 minute timer goes off, again, we are walking around, we are monitoring, we're asking questions in that moment, and we are identifying 1 or 2 students that we want to use to be able to share their response on how they accurately solve the problem. Once that happened, we're doing a quick recap, which in the script, there is a 1 minute recap of the important skill or the important concept that we really want students to learn. So for example, if we're talking about addition with regrouping, that 1 minute recap, we want to really focus on, okay, we want students to understand that there is 10 ones in a 10, and so that we need to regroup a total of 10 ones when we're actually regrouping. So with that key concept, that was a recap, students know that next time I go to a regrouping problem with addition, I need to really focus on my regrouping. As the problems go by, we want to decrease the time. So 5 minutes, then 4 minutes, then 3 minutes, all while using a timer to help keep the pace of the lesson going. After we did a coaching cycle with that, I went in and helped modeled. I went in and helped co-teach the lesson with her so that way she understands the timer is off, let's move on. The timer is off, let's move on. But it also kept the kids really engaged, really focused, and it minimized the interruptions and the distractions that was going on in the classroom. After I went back in to observe, and we realized from the difference was that in the beginning, when I first observed, there was no time for instructional practice to happen, independent practice to happen for the students by themselves, or there was no check for understanding or any quick checks or any informal assessments being able to happen throughout the lesson. Once I went back in and we set a timer, she was able to formally assess the students using a quick check, formally assess the students using an exit ticket, and students were also being able to have 30 minutes of independent time where she was able to use that 30 minutes to now, based on the exit ticket, focus on the students who did not pass the exit ticket and do a quick small group reteach. With that, we continue to incorporate timers throughout the next time we plan together for the upcoming unit. So really keep her focused and say, this is the time that I have. I need to make sure that I get everything, or I know I need to listen to this student talk. I need to hear what students are saying, and I need to grasp all the concepts and make sure that I'm helping move the lesson along, and not just making sure that everybody is moving at a slow pace. And I have to make sure that everybody is doing everything at the same time and not moving the students along, so that way they are being successful. In my reflection on the several strategies that I learned about my administrators with they shadowing days, I realized that the important key part of it was meeting with the administrator team. I realized that them meeting every single Monday helped delegate the tasks, and it helped move the school along and focus on the priorities for that week. So I really thought that was really good to maintain flexibility, but also be able to be visible in the classroom, being able to know what's going on in the school, being able to know what's the priorities and know what tasks that each other are doing. So that way when we come back, we can say, okay, well, we did this. We can do a check-in, check-out process. We did this piece. We tackled this goal. We met with these teachers. We met with our coaches. And so now let's focus on what are some of these priorities that we weren't able to do. Now these priorities move up to the forefront, and we could focus on those things that are now that have not been focused on last week, or we just didn't have enough time. I also like how I see my principal in particular have communications with his principal secretary and the front office to know when to route certain emergencies to his walkie-talkie. This gave him time to really focus on the meetings with his regional superintendent, and also focus on the data that was being presented, or the resources or the instructional pieces that were needed to be heard. He was able to fully commit himself to that meeting and not be pulled in so many directions. But I also realized that comes with trust, and that comes with building rapport to make sure that your office staff and your principal secretary can hold down the school and make sure that the school continue to function overall while you are occupied with a 30-minute to 45-minute meeting. Again, I realized that was trust, that was building rapport and establishing those relationships to know these are the priorities that I have today that I have to focus on. And so you're leaning into your team for that support to make sure that they can handle the school and handle those responsibilities while you are able to handle the bigger picture things or the big rots that needs to be handled. Overall, I know that blocking time in for myself, blocking time in to plan, blocking time in to make sure administrative tasks is being done is very, very important, but also making sure that using a calendar to help organize the tasks that I need to get done is very important when it comes to managing my time, managing my visibility, and managing the presence that I have in the school, and also managing the tasks that needs to be done. I am only one person, and as a future administrator, I know that I need to lean into my team and trust that the things can be done without me overseeing or without me micromanaging, but also building that report to know that my team can do everything that I need them to do is very, very important. So knowing that I have to build the relationships and I have to build that trust to get me through the days where the priority seems at large, to know that this will get done and will help me become an effective leader overall. Thank you.